Welcome to Unraveling the Scriptures channel. The ancient giants, according to the Bible, were initially known as Nephilim. These Nephilim were beings of impressive stature, belonging to different castes and races, ranging from about 10 to 16 feet in height, and in some cases, even more than 16 feet, as mentioned in the sacred scriptures. Did you know that there was a time when the earth was inhabited by these numerous giants who, due to their immense strength, exerted dominance over all the regions they traversed? However, who were these giants after all? Where did they come from? Were they malevolent individuals? And why did these extraordinarily tall and robust men disappear from history? These questions, among others, will be addressed and answered in today's video. They were referred to by various terms and names, with the most notable being the term Rephaim and the term Anakim, which are widely recognized today. But what was the enigmatic origin of these Nephilim giants, according to the Bible? That is precisely what we will discuss in this video. Get ready for an exciting journey through scriptures and time as we seek to unravel the mysteries surrounding these legendary giants. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share this video so that others can also join us in this search for the truth. The mysterious origin of the ancient Nephilim giants. In modern times, numerous debates swirl around the origin of the giants mentioned in the Old Testament. The biblical text makes several references to different races and castes of giants, some of which are known as Rephaim, Anakim, or Enochim, Zuzim, and Zamzummim. The first mention of the Rephaim occurs in Genesis 14 verse 5 when Abraham, still called Abram, led a military expedition to rescue his nephew Lot, and in the 14th year came Kedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth-Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Han, and the Emim in Shaveh-Kiriathaim. And to the Horites in their Mount Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the desert. However, the most significant mention of the Rephaim occurs in Deuteronomy 2 verses 10 to 11, where it speaks of a people called the Emim, who were considered Rephaim and were inhabitants of Moab before the arrival of the Moabites. The Emim lived there formerly, a people as great, numerous, and tall as the Anakim. Like the Anakim, they are also considered Rephaim, but the Moabites call them Emim. The first mention of the Anakim occurs when the spies sent by Moses to scout the land of Canaan return with reports of the giants living there. The Book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 33, says, "There also we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak are part of the Nephilim, and we became like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight." The Zuzim are another group mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the Old Testament. Like the Rephaim, the Zuzim are mentioned in the context of the history of the Promised Land before the arrival of the Israelites. However, compared to groups like the Anakim, Nephilim, and Rephaim, the Zuzim are mentioned quite briefly, and there are not many details available about them. The only mention of Zuzim in the Bible is in Genesis 14, which is part of the War of the Kings narrative. In this passage, there is a reference to a coalition of kings, including the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, who fought against other kings. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him, after he returned from smiting Kedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, to the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's valley. Genesis 14 mentions the king of Sodom, but the mention of the Zuzim is quite obscure and does not provide many details about this group. Therefore, there are several tribes of giants mentioned in the Bible. While there is considerable controversy about the origin of these ancient giants, older interpretations based on Hebrew and Aramaic offer a more accurate view of their provenance. In this context, I will present the oldest interpretation of these giants, an interpretation that dates back to antiquity, to the time of Jesus and even before it. Ancient Jewish thought provides insights into the origin of the Nephilim, the ancient giants. While Goliath is the most well-known giant in the sacred scriptures, it is interesting to note that the Bible also mentions giants even larger and stronger than Goliath, who inhabited both the land of Canaan and Mesopotamia. In addition to biblical support, various mythologies also address and explore these gigantic figures. It is interesting to observe that giants are found in various mythologies around the world, not just in the Bible. In indigenous, Greek, Norse, and many other ancient mythologies, there are accounts of different types of giants. These diverse cultures have stories and legends that attest to the existence of these gigantic beings, demonstrating that the idea of giants transcends cultural and religious boundaries, not being limited to the Bible alone. To better understand the origin of giants, we can examine the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 2, which states, "When mankind began to multiply on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took any they chose as wives. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not remain with mankind forever, because they are corrupt. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth both in those days and afterward, when the sons of God came to the daughters of mankind, who bore children to them. They were the powerful men of old, the famous men." In verse 4, when it mentions that in Nephilim, it is not actually referring directly to the giants but rather to the parents of these giants. The term Nephilim is derived from the word Naphal, which literally means fallen or fallen ones. This suggests that the Nephilim were the offspring of the union between the fallen angels and the daughters of men, who were attractive to them. Therefore, the Nephilim giants arose from this unusual union between celestial beings and humans. In addition to these relationships, in ancient times, other types of monstrous beings emerged. The fallen angels, who are essentially demons, did not seek to unite with the daughters of men out of mere whim or personal pleasure. They did so with the intention of displeasing and provoking God, distorting his primary creation. When they mixed with human women, they took on human form, as angels have the ability to manifest as men. Thus, they had relations with the women of the earth, especially those who were most attractive to their eyes. The Nephilim giants are the result of this union. The letter of Jude supports this view, stating that the angels who did not keep their original authority and holiness but abandoned their proper dwelling are now held in darkness, awaiting judgment on the great day. Jude 1 verse 6. Verse 7 details the sin these rebellious angels committed against God, which involved sexual depravity similar to that observed in Sodom, Gomorrah, and neighboring cities. All these places faced the punishment of eternal fire as an example of the consequences of this sin. Indeed, the sin of these angels was sexual depravity, and by doing so, they incurred the wrath of God, giving rise to a grotesque and monstrous offspring that represented a distortion of humanity. This offspring included colossal and gigantic beings, as well as other monstrous forms that inhabited the earth. An additional curiosity is that the Book of Enoch, a very ancient text preserved in copies in Ethiopian and ancient Aramaic languages, which was part of the tradition of the ancient Jewish Essene community, shares the same view regarding the ancient giants and Nephilim. This book agrees that the giants were descendants of fallen angels, corroborating the presented narrative. In addition to the Book of Enoch, there are other books from ancient Jewish traditions that also agree with this view. One such book, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, along with the oldest version of the Old Testament, is the Book of Giants. Few people are aware of this book, but it dates back to around 700 years before Christ and shares the same perspective presented in the Book of Enoch, citing many of its passages. Thus, these ancient and traditional texts agree on the obscure origin of giants. A notable curiosity is that the Book of Jubilees, which is an ancient text from Jewish traditions, addresses the penance that God imposed on the giants born from the grotesque and monstrous relationship between human women and fallen angels. According to this book, the penance given to these beings was the transformation of their souls and spirits into unclean spirits, thus constituting a different caste of unclean spirits that crawled upon the earth. This implied that when these giants died, they could neither go to paradise nor to hell, becoming literally lower-level demons or simply impure spirits. They were considered the restless souls of the ancient giants and Nephilim mentioned in the Bible. The Book of Jubilees indeed contains fascinating insights from ancient Jewish traditions, and many of them provide a unique perspective on these topics. It's important to note that, in the Ethiopian version of the Bible and the Ethiopian Orthodox Christian Church, the Book of Jubilees is part of the biblical canon. However, this inclusion varies depending on the religious tradition and the specific canon in use. Regarding the question of the relationship between giants and the Great Flood, there are two interpretations of this issue. The first interpretation suggests that after the flood, fallen angels once again united with human women, giving rise to a new lineage of giants. This giant lineage was the last, and even after the previous flood, the fallen angels did not learn their lesson and were imprisoned by God in eternal chains, as mentioned in the book of Jude, chapter 1, verses 6 and 7. The second interpretation argues that a small portion of the giants managed to survive the flood by taking refuge in the mountains that became islands amidst the waters. Using improvised vessels made from giant tree trunks, such as cedar trees reaching up to 82 feet and other ancient trees from the pre-flood era, they were able to float and survive for some time. Some even suggest they may have built boats. This interpretation of giants surviving the flood was intended to show the new generation of humans that God is above all, regardless of their height, strength, or size. Interestingly, this interpretation is supported by several ancient rabbis who believe that some giants survived the flood. However, this lineage of giants was in decline and gradually disappeared, despite having significantly longer lifespans than ordinary humans. This video is part of a series that explores giants in the scriptures. Therefore, we would like to ask for your support if you are enjoying the series and wish for us to continue bringing new videos. Please like and share this video to reach a larger audience, made up of those who are interested in deepening their knowledge of the scriptures and their enigmas. You can find other videos in this series on the end screen. Thanks for watching this far. See you soon.